The importance of self-love cannot be overstated. Hey, what's up? It's Brian here, and this video is part 4 to my 5-part video series on love. So part 4 and part 5 are all about self-love. In part 5, I'm going to go into some strategies and specific things to manifest self-love in you, and this video is more of a framework of self-love and for the next video. So this video is about the importance of self-love and how a lack of it is initially created also. So if you appreciate my authentic perspectives in this video, subscribe, share the message, share the video, comment down below. That's always appreciated. And on the importance, so there's so many issues in the United States and in the world at large, right? Violence going on, a lot of hate in the air, people going to prison, lack of fathers in the home, just so many issues, right? And the number one factor for all of this is a lack of a healthy mental health state. And of course, there's a lot of deep things tied to mental health. So self-love is not the only component, but it is a major component to a lot of these issues going on. And note that there are levels to a lack of self-love. So the most severe form is when you don't have love for yourself and you don't feel love from other people. So that's the most severe form that I'm going to go into at the end of this video. But the most common form of self-love is when you don't have self-love, but you do feel love from other people. People do love you, but you still don't feel it yourself. So that's the most common, and I'm gonna go into how that is created in this world right now. And before I get into that though, I just wanna say these are some deep and personal subjects that I'm about to go into, and I'm not proclaiming to be an expert on this stuff. You know, I'm just sharing my honest, authentic perspective. I may be wrong with some things, but it's my honest perspective. So I hope it's valuable to you watching this. That's why I'm sharing it. So now I'm gonna go into parenting. And obviously, I'm very passionate about this subject. I'm a parent myself. I did the Raising an Ace series too. So parents, the majority at least, 95% plus, love their children. But like I said, that does not always guarantee that your child has self-love. So why is that? I'm gonna go into some poor parenting strategies right now. So the first thing that some parents do is they praise the outside outcome instead of the process for things with their children. So some parents say, "That's amazing, Johnny, that you got an A on that assignment." Instead of, "I'm really proud of you, Johnny, for working hard on that assignment." So there's a difference, right? If you just praise the outside outcome, you're not encouraging a growth mindset in your child. And I go deeper into this in the To Be Smart video in the Raising an Ace series too. I'll put a link below if you're interested in that. So if a parent does just that, and then a child, they don't take pride in the process for things, they just take pride in the outside outcome. And so when a child inevitably fails at something, they don't make the basketball team or they get a bad grade, they view themselves as a failure because they tie their self-love and self-worth to that outside outcome that obviously you can't always control, right? So that's a negative thing. And then a child from there, because they don't have that growth mindset, they don't challenge themselves, right? And then the parents also, another thing some parents do is they shelter their children from uncomfortable or challenging situations. So this really can contribute to a lack of self-love. Because if you don't expose your child to these situations, at a certain point, obviously, a child, when they grow up throughout childhood, they're going to experience adversity anyway. So you have to expose them to that in a maybe controlled environment initially so that they can handle it. So when a person grows up, if they're not exposed to challenging situations, then the hostility of the world, when that gets to them, that really gets to them. And their self-love deteriorates from there. So you don't want to do that as a parent. And another point that parents do is they sometimes spoil a child with things, right? So some parents condition their child to attach their happiness, self-love, and self-worth to outside things instead of internal character traits and stuff that you can control pretty much. So that's a very negative thing because of course you're not always going to have those outside things like I alluded to in the part 2 video to this series. So another thing is tied to all that stuff too. If parents aren't intentional in developing a positive identity for the child, then that's going to manifest in a lack of self-love also. So I reference this poor parenting in terms of labeling a child. So here's a clip from the To Be Loving video I did where I go into this. Label for us and for Ace, label his behavior, not him. So I'm going to look out for Ace saying, "I am a bad person. I am a mean person." Don't say that. Say, "I did something mean." Say, "I did something bad." Those are two different things. Go back to the grocery store example. We're always going to label Ace in a positive way. "Ace, you're loving," and then we're going to label his behavior accordingly. So that's a very negative thing, to be labeling your child in a negative way like that. And I want to go into identity a little bit more because it's so highly connected to a lack of self-love that I'm seeing right now. So one thing that some people do is a parent may say like, boys do this to their child, or people of our race think like this, or people in our family think like this. So you're encouraging your child in that scenario to attach their identity to the group over themselves. And this is really tied to self-love, because a major component of self-love is recognizing your power as an individual, that you have a unique positive identity. You are you. So if you don't even understand that and you attach who you are to an outside group, then you pretty much lose your own identity as a person. So that's very destructive. So if you're a parent or someone with influence watching this, don't do that to the people around you, right? So if you want to use a group in that sort of scenario, what, for example, I'm doing with Ace, I may say something like, courageous boys do this, right? So you're putting an internal character trait in the beginning of the statement to emphasize that instead of the generalization, right? So keep that in mind too. And also, some people, they unintentionally victimize their children. So this can often lead to a lack of self-love. So this is manifested through just being lazy and talking about adverse subjects with the child. So this might lead to unnecessary trauma or victimhood in a child, or make a person feel like they're disempowered or they don't have agency over their life. So that's a very negative thing, can lead to a lack of self-love. Be very intentional in terms of having those conversations with your child. And I go deep with that in the video on my See Humor channel called How to Victimize Your Child. So I'll link that below. So pretty much all the scenarios that I talk about, right? Those are examples where a parent or person actually loves their children or someone. So that's like you're feeling love from other people with all these scenarios, but that still results in a lack of self-love. So that's the most common. So be very conscious of all of those different things. That's very important. Because look, if you don't love yourself, even if you have love from other people, I still call that symbolic suicide. Why? Because from your own standpoint, it's like, what's the point of getting better? Why should I even care how I turn out, right? Because I don't even love myself. That's a very serious thing. I call it symbolic suicide because it's the death of your best self. So you really have to be conscious of how that's manifested first before addressing it. So next, I'm going to go into the most severe form of a lack of self-love. Like I said in the beginning, it's when you don't love yourself and you don't feel love from other people. This can lead to a lot of negative behaviors, criminal activity, all that stuff. And with this, I'm going to reference a great story. I love this story from Jim Brown that I heard in an interview a few years ago. I put this in a blog post I wrote a few years ago too, called Soften Your Heart. I'll put a link down below to that. So if you don't know who Jim Brown is, he's probably the greatest football player to ever live. He was a civil rights activist. He founded the American Foundation. He said that he helped transform hundreds and probably thousands of gang members' lives and to lead a positive life after that. So he's a very deep person. He really cares about the social issues. So he mentioned in that interview that he went into a prison one time to speak to the people there. And he said a bold statement to them. He said, if anyone in this room doesn't want to be cared for or loved by somebody, stand up. And he said nobody stood up. Because he said it's a human condition to want to be cared for and loved. And he went on to say that that's what is missing a lot of times from people who do bad stuff like that, right? A lack of self-love is the root cause. And he mentioned that he's had hundreds of people come to his home in LA, and he spoke with them and do different intervention with them and that sort of thing. And he said not one time did anyone attack him or even disrespect him. And that's because he cared for them. He cared for them. So that's what's missing a lot of time in a lot of the conversations that people have in regards to how can we transform the criminal justice system and all this crap. I say crap because a lot of people don't know what they're talking about with this. Positive psychology and all this stuff, that's the thing that's most needed to help people overcome challenges. Self-love is the number one thing that's lacking, and a lot of people neglect that. So Jim Brown in that interview, to frame this whole point that I'm talking about, let me pull up my phone. He said, quote, the cry in the jungle, the cry in the wilderness, it's when a man cries out, nobody cares about me, so what the hell, I'll do anything. Nobody gives a stuffing about me. So that's what I'm talking about. That's why self-love and a lack of it is so important and prevalent in the society today. Everyone's talking about these shallow things that transform the world and all this stuff. Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about self-love. So to you watching this, if you have a lack of self-love, maybe you don't feel love from other people and you don't love yourself, or maybe just one or the other, know that I care for you. I love you. That's why I'm putting up this video. And whatever is in my power to alter that, even if it's just a video format and you hearing this, I want to give all valuable perspectives to you. So look, watch my part 5 video. So I'm going to go into some deep practical things that you can do to improve your self-love. I really want to really emphasize self-love. That's why I'm doing this 5-part love series, because I think it's that important. And I'm ending on self-love because it's the most important form of love. Love yourself, share the love, and share the video.